We are doing this kind of the same training. However, yours is in general and mine is integral.
Yes, exactly. I'm just gonna give the, not in detail, but what we should be careful on these things. I mean, this is the.
So you're the one who's presenting a map, always writing.
Yes, yes, exactly.
We need two design interventions.
Hello.
So this is basically general scope, and then mine is like integral, because we have the same title, writing and presenting, mine is writing and presenting. The only addition is mine has dash integral training. But I think he's also in a different session, which is with Faden, if I'm not mistaken. They do analysis.
Analysis, very good.
See, because we have writing research, presenting research, which is Alfred, and then we have literature review, which is Dieter.
Dieter, yes.
He's going to be fantastic, I think, because he actually loves literature review, and I rarely find people that loves it. I think you're a person that likes literature review, or no? Yeah. And most people who like that actually don't like analysis.
I suppose because I'm not really that experienced, I don't know yet.
Because I find myself more happy in the analysis than I don't like it.
Yes.
So grant writing KPAS is basically, what's this? Okay, and then you have we have design and qualitative research and analysis of interview information, Walid, and then understand management, developing questions, designing a questionnaire, Faden, and then you have introduction to SPSS, and then this is what Vladimir wanted, and then this guy comes, Omar, and he gives introduction to that, integral training, which basically covers
in depth.
no,
more
all of this, yes, all of this.
In detail. Very good.
But mine, as I said, is like 1st of May, so I have a lot of time. This is March, he starts with March, Alpha and Faden, and then Faden will start in March, Walid is February.
Should I get out and then people?
I'm thinking about Ramadan. I hope
Yes.
we don't take away our 12:30.
Hello, my friend.
Oh, hello. Hello, hello. Good morning to you and to all the others. I can hear them. I cannot see them, but definitely a big hello.
Good afternoon.
You are muted or I can't hear you. I mean, because of.
I hear you very well from my side.
Maybe because I'm in the classroom, that's why this sound is not.
Yeah.
I hear you both very well.
We can hear you.
Sorry. So when I start, I'm gonna share my screen, by the way. I'm gonna keep the camera open. I don't care, I don't mind. And I'm gonna share the PowerPoint so that when it's recorded, the whole presentation will be recorded.
Perfect.
Shall I go ID?
I think it's in the settings of. No, it's the team settings. You can change it here.
Yeah?
Yes. Go to device settings. Speaker, it's real text. You can.
Speaker.
Thank you.
Hi.
But
how are
it's.
you?
Is it?
Can you
is
just
it
tell
put
me
out?
to
Is
test
it use it? Yeah, this one.
I don't think so.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes. Could you please speak again? Now we might hear you.
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
Let's start the recording.
It is being recorded, I believe.
No. Is it? Yes.
Yes, it is being recorded. Okay. Yes, Dr. Farid, Dr. Vladimir, would you like to start, or I mean, our first session, and then?
I don't know if there's anything to start with. The floor is all yours.
Thank you.
Dr. Vladimir, you have anything to say?
Definitely, I would agree with you, Dr. Farid. But of course, for all our colleagues who are in the classroom and online, welcome to the first training session related to writing and presenting research. It will be held by our distinguished colleague, Professor Alper. And as you were already informed in that email that we have distributed earlier, there will be 22 training sessions during this period starting from today. And it will end up on May. I don't remember the exact date in May, but definitely in May we will finish with these research trainings. So definitely you're more than welcome and encouraged to participate and to use the chance to build your research capacities and to improve your skills in terms of research. Thank you all in advance. Professor Alper, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Alper. Please, whenever someone's speaking from this side, you might need to mute your mic because the echo is coming back to us. Okay. I think the floor is yours. Please, please proceed.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming session. And I also see that we have colleagues attending this session other than our College of Business, and also I would like to welcome them. And I hope this session will be a very nice start of a series of seminars to aim to increase our research capacity as a university as a whole. And I'm more than happy, I'm very glad to do the first session, and I hope that I'm gonna answer all your questions, and I'm gonna give you my aim actually is to share my experience in all my publications history. Let's say I learned from the hard way that, and I'm hope sharing some information with you that you may not find in books or other references regarding publications. So also I would like to welcome all my colleagues who attend online. So, and I'm happy that we provide this opportunity because I know everybody is very busy. And so first, let me share my screen, and then yes. Thank you again. And today our first session is going to be related how to write and present our research actually. So making a research, as we all know, is a very, very exhausting process and takes a long time. And it requires a lot of effort, a lot of resources and everything. So that's why it's so important to how to write all this research and how to present it when it comes to publications, as a journal article, as a conference presentation, because again, throughout my experience, I've seen a lot of very, very important research that couldn't be, unfortunately, presented well, so that it just, published or just presented in the conference in a very weak way. So this is, again, I would like to give you a big picture, and then when it comes to the important points, I would like to share the tips and important, again, key points, let's say, that I have learned throughout all these publications that I've done. I'm not going to go through my experience and everything, but just as a summary, I don't want to talk about the years, but okay, now I'm here, everybody knows. I'm in this business for 20 years, let's say. And then I have published a lot of research and more than 30 articles, 30 presentations, and I have a book and a lot of book chapters and everything. So, and I'm gonna really emphasize once more the importance of publications when it comes to in the academia. So the outline today, again, I'm going to go through the research process and the sections in presenting the research, and in every section what we should include definitely before submitting our research or presenting this. As we all know, research in a very general way that we undertake in order to find out the answers. But we are human beings, and especially when it comes to social science and also engineering, I mean involving engineering. So it's impossible, right, to take us out. So there are always some subjective way in the research when it comes to presenting it. That's why to eliminate the subjectivity, to reduce its effect, the things that we should do in a very systematic way. That is the way that we would like to emphasize in presenting research, how systematic we are and how we follow a systematic way when it comes to conducting and also presenting the research. So this is one of the schemas that I like very much, actually. It really put everything, starts with the generation of the topic. I'm not going to go everything in detail because I only have 1.5 hours. Actually, I'm talking about this whole semester, so it's impossible. But again, I'm going to try to emphasize the important points. So then, after we generate the topic, we are planning approach and we are going to do a literature. I'm going to go, we're going to go through every one of them one by one. And then after the literature review, we are going through the empirical part, which is the methodology, how we conduct the research we intend to. And then we are going to go through it, data collection, measurement, analysis, and everything. And then one of the important points, how we interpret the results and how we transform it to the findings. Actually, this is one of the other important points. And again, at the end, we are going to reflect it. So this process, actually, what I would like to say here, this process looks like it has a lot of components which is connected serial way, but actually it is not. So it's always, you might come back and forth, when you're going through the research. And one of the most important part as a researcher, you have to keep this big picture in front of you all the time from the start to the end. When you start considering the topic, you should start considering how you can collect the data. And at the same time, you should start thinking, if I have the ability to test it, if I have the ability to if I know the methodology required to test these kind of assumptions or hypotheses. So this big picture should always be in front of you. As an example, it would be a perfect idea to compare the differences of the learning between the students in Namibia, in Ethiopia, in Taiwan, in Turkey, in Canada, right? But can I do it and can I collect this data? Currently, I cannot. So it would be impossible to conduct this research. So while thinking about this, while thinking the importance, I'm also considering the other part. So this, please keep this in mind. So, in introduction part of a paper, right? This is the first entrance. Yes, please.
Professor, are you going to share with us the presentation at any point?
Yes, of course.
So that I know if I need to take notes during, or I can go back to the presentation. That's the purpose of it.
Okay, you mean for now or after?
No, afterwards.
Of course, I will share the presentation. Introduction, usually it's perceived as, okay, I'm just entering the subject and everything. But what I have learned, and I had the chance to work really in the friend level, with the editors of really high-level journals. This introduction section is when you sell your paper.
Yeah, it happens all the time in this.
Okay.
This classroom.
So, again, this introduction section is where you sell your paper. I'm sorry for my word, but it is reality. So, the marketing people would understand me much better because this is, I have a product at the end of the day as a researcher. So, how you frame it is very, very important to make it attractive by the editors, by the readers, by the journalists. So the first one that we need to discuss, of course, what is my research topic in the introduction, very briefly. Okay. So after that, the basic definitions, but this part is how you catch the return. Why I am doing this research? What is the importance? What is the significance of the topic? Why I'm going to spend 1 year, 2 years, 3 years to research this topic? Is this really worthwhile? Is this really that valuable? To be able to explain this why, we need to focus on the gap and the need in the literature. Why we need this? And one of the things is, here I would like to mention again, I learned from the Harvard, saying that this research has not been done before. This is gonna be the first attempt. What in their words, it's not my words, in their words, is kiss of death. At that point, you are done. Your paper is rejected from the desk. Because it's a huge claim saying that there is no such research in the whole world. I mean, you might be something, I mean, I don't know, if you win the Nobel Prize, I cannot say anything. But for us, for our level, it's really hard to say something like that. On the other hand, okay, it might be true, right? This research maybe really nobody attempted to do that. But what is the reason? I mean, there are thousands of researchers. Why nobody thought about it? Let me give you an example. Sometimes I give crazy examples, but to explain what I'm trying to say. If I say that tomorrow morning with my car, I'm gonna climb the wall of the school. Why? Nobody tried it before. Right? It's worth to try. Of course, nobody tried it before, but there's a theory behind it. There is a right gravity is something, so nobody can do it because it's already so. Saying it is not done before, it's not an excuse or it's not a reason to do a research. So we should prove why we need to do this. What is the gap? Based on the theory. Okay.
So,
Please.
can I interrupt for a second?
Please.
So when we say why, I know there's two types of research. You've got the research, industrial research, which you do for companies, and but this is academic research. So what would, give me an example of what would be, I can think of many reasons why my research would help companies. Can I put that?
Of course, perfect.
Oh,
I mean, if there's a practical reason,
yes.
there is a need. If the companies really need to learn about this,
Yes.
to do this and this and this and that, if you prove that the value of this research is perfect, you can catch it.
Can I, basically, I was just publishing a paper in sustainability. So first of all, why electric cars are good for the environment and stuff like that. Then I basically used the same data set of basically why the designers and marketing needs to know that so they can actually introduce it into marketing. So two papers, different ones.
Also, I would like to now, based on your question, I'm going to mention it later on, but as a smart attendance, you're going 3 slides before me. So, if you are conducting a kind of exploratory research, saying that I'm going to explore the reasons behind, it might be easier. But if your research is going on claiming something based on hypothesis, and then you should provide why you claim this hypothesis. This is the little bit differentiation, small differentiation between two approaches. And then this part, so what question? Actually, this is another important one. Okay, you did this research, you did a perfect result, so I'm translating this so what as I don't know in Turkish or in Arabic. So what means okay, you did the research. So congratulations, bravo, and give me something. What is the value? This is the question actually answering the value. Why is the reason, but so what is going to prove the value of the research at the end of the day. Exploratory research you are doing, if you are going to attend an exploratory research, I should advise a huge sample size. Why? Because you are going to explore the reasons behind it. If you just ask 10, 20 people, the result, it might be very hard to generalize to the huge community. For example, you made a perfect example, electric cars.
Yeah.
So if you are gonna make a conclusion about the need of electric cars in Kuwait, it's not enough to ask 10 people, 20 people. So your exploratory research needs large sample size.
Yeah,
So just keep in mind. Another point is surprise factor. This is really a couple of years ago, let's say, it's a good term, a couple of years ago, I really submitted a paper in a high journal. I am industrial engineering background, so I am good with the numbers and methodology part actually. So in this part, we really did very good things. We were very sure that the paper is going to be accepted. It was just rejected. There was nothing, no comment about technique, no comment about methodology, nothing wrong. The reason was, I'm telling literally, the sentence was, it didn't surprise me. I said, what are they talking about? It didn't surprise me. The point is, they said that your research is about how leadership increase commitment. Okay, I know it. Okay? You didn't need to take 6 months, 8 months of research. If you come to me and we can drink coffee and I will tell you the result. So if it is so obvious, it's not going to attract. So either you should find the original idea to combine the variables, or you should find an original idea to prove what is already known. Okay? So this is what makes your research successful. Again, let me give you an example, not from my research, but from my childhood. When I was a kid, I still remember that because, I was 6, 7 years old, and our moms, are always cooking the best food for us. So I'm always the eating part, right? I'm a boy, so I don't have anything about the cooking. And I already know, right? When you put salt in the food, it's gonna be salty. Perfect. There is no surprise. One day, my mother said, while talking, not to me, but talking, she said, I put 2 spoons of sugar, but the food was savory, it was salty. And I was just like, my eyes were going big. I was just 6, 7 years old boy. I said, how? You put sugar and it's still salty? And I started questioning, how is it so? How much you put? Why is it? Because it came surprising. I put sugar, it's still salty. This is the surprise. So if you can show the surprising part of your research, it depends on you, of course. That's why I said at the beginning, it's how you present. You might find surprising ways how to present your research. If you find it, it might be much easier to catch the editor or to catch the readers. Another part here I would like to say, by saying the surprise factor. I'm going to give the example of my students. My students usually, when they are doing their masters, when they are doing their PhD, they make a hypothesis, and when they do the tests, if their hypotheses are not supported, they just in the panic. They just push the emergency button. Oh, what should we do? Should we collect another data? Should we do the analysis? Am I doing something wrong? Actually, not supporting the hypothesis is much better because it is the surprise factor. Because I'm already expecting my hypothesis to be supported. That's why I claim that. Right? But the point here, if your hypothesis is not supported, you should explain why. If leadership really does not increase commitment in this sample, and if I explain it based on culture, based on sector, based on job, based on I don't know what, then it will be surprise, and then you should claim, yes, this is my surprise. I found something different than everybody else.
I did that. Back to my thing is that I thought people the main drivers of electric cars would be young boys, but basically they are over 50-year-old men. And that was like the surprise factor, and they buy it as a third car, and it's basically a toy. And that is like, that was a very surprising factor for me.
Even you were surprised that
I was
also. Yes,
surprised,
you see,
yeah.
this is, so then it comes how we present it as a surprise factor to the readers.
55-year-old men were the main driver of electric cars, of course.
So they're already tired of paying the gas for all their
Yeah.
life, and finally.
They want to save on some.
So again, the introduction part really, really important. I am just giving you the, let's say, I remember what that editor told me. They said we are only reading the introduction as editors. We don't check the rest. If you like it, we just pass it to the reviewers and they do the rest. Because I don't have time to read everything from them. They just read the introduction. So this is the part you can catch the people. Literature review. It really has a lot of time, requires a lot of time to do literature. But the purpose is here, you should understand the purpose. What do we need to show to people? What is the literature? Because there are lots of different explanations of literature. The purpose is we need to show people that I know the field, I know the concepts, I know the theories. I am aware of it. Believe me, I have lived that. Again, I work with them as a team. Editors they know the literature. One anecdote of mine. When we are working together, I propose, I have an idea of research idea. I said, I put the variables. To me, it was very nice. She turned to me, she said, you know what, this is good, but this is a very similar model to the article which is published in this journal in 2018 by this. I was shocked, I was surprised, and they know almost everything. Of course, because it's in her field, but they really know, they really follow the literature, they really follow the articles published. So really to give them this idea that you know the field is not an easy job. So in the literature review part, what we need to provide the definitions of the components that we are working on. I would like to say one thing. Definition. You said, okay, definition is easy. But why definitions are important? Let me give you an example. By the way, I'm sorry for attendance from the other faculties, but I'm usually giving examples of our own field, social sciences. Let's say we are going to work on turnover, right? Okay, turnover, it's easy, right? Easy. But it's important how I accept turnover in my research. Because when it comes to turnover, it might be voluntary, it might be mandatory, it might be retirement, it might be firing people. There might be a lot of different types of these things. So the important thing is show which one I'm considering in my own research. Because especially when it comes to social science, as you all know, it's very hard to define and it's hard to measure the things. Let's say stress. Right? I mean, do we have any measure to say that your stress is 3.75 today? I mean, it's impossible. So what kind of stress are we talking about? Are we talking about physical stress, psychological stress, mental something? So it's important to define how I am taking. So in this part, this is how we clarify the topic. How you clarify the topic for your reader. So reviewing the literature actually doesn't mean that Mr. Ahmad did this, Mr. Abdullah did this, Mrs. Mirna did this, Mrs. Marcel. No, it's just listing. Literature review is not listing. Literature review is actually critical, making the critic of it. What has been done and what they found actually. And what did I understand from every research? So that's why when we synthesize previous studies, we need to identify what we learned. And one of the points in the literature, because when I write leadership in the Google Scholar, you can find 2 million papers. Right? So which one I'm going to go through? Should I read every one of them? Of course not. Then there is going to be relevancy. Why should I include this research? When you read a research, you should ask your question. Is it really important for me? Is it really contributing to my research? It might be in the same field, but do I learn something new from this one? So why should I include this research in my report? Because you know what? When you get the review reports, you're gonna see definitely why you didn't include this, why you didn't include this, why you include this one but exclude this one. It's impossible to cover everything, but as long as you provide the correct justification why you include those and not the others, then you are on the safe side. Then you are on the safe side. One thing in the literature, okay, is every single word that you are going to use will come back to you as a tax. Okay? What I'm saying, if you say something a little bit not relevant to your research, you are going to get the comment, why you did this, if you are using this, where is the measure, where is that? Okay, I regret to use it. I mean, so research report is not somewhere that to show them, oh, I know everything. You know everything, it's up to you. Here, we just talk about what you research. So as in project management, okay, you have to decide what to include, but you have to know what not to include. So you have to
break down structure.
Exactly. Because in project, I might ask you, why didn't you put this too? So if you write here, why you are putting synthesizing, then you put your borders very nicely and what
the scope of the work.
exactly the scope. Perfect. After all this, one last point, what we still need to know. And I'm going to connect to the gap to the introduction. Right. I read all of this literature. Okay, still, where is the point? So now this is the critical place that you connect this to the gap that you identified in the introduction. There is two other points in the literature review. One is sometimes it's confusing. That's why I would like to clarify this. Theoretical background. Theoretical background is not the same thing with literature review. Theoretical background is giving the theory behind your hypothesis. You claim transformational leadership decrease turnover intentions. How do you know? Because in this research, Mr. Ahmed said that. How do I know he's right? Did you see it in your dreams? I mean, how do you claim such hypothesis? So you should say that according to the something self-determination theory, social exchange theory, this theory, I can claim. Because theory means that a lot of people did the same research. A lot of people supported this idea and became a theory. So it's generalizable. So it's generalized to almost all cultures, all different samples. So I can use the theory. So you should put the theory as a reasoning behind our claims. If you miss this, you're gonna get definite. If they're not convinced with the theory that you use, they're gonna push you to use another theory to prove your point. So, yes, please.
Do you always have to link to a theory?
Almost always.
Really?
Except exploratory. Except because exploratory has a different goal, right? I am trying to explore if there is something.
Yeah.
I'm
not sure.
I would basically say that exploratories, you are basically finding what you don't know.
Yes. And usually these type of research usually being done in a qualitative way rather than quantitative.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what to measure it. You're just trying to understand, trying to learn.
Journey guides your destination.
The conceptual framework at the end of the literature, now I put everything behind and now I'm putting my concept. I'm saying that this is what I learned, this is the need, this is the gap, this is my concept. I'm putting it, I'm putting the research topic, and I'm putting three different things. What is the topic? What is the research question? What is the hypothesis? These are three different things than each other. Again, I try to put an example in. My topic is turnover in IT sector. Okay, good. But what is my question? How can we decrease turnover? This is a question. This is not a hypothesis. What is a hypothesis? What might be the hypothesis? Career opportunities in the workplace decreases to. Now I claim something that can be tested. So hypothesis is, in my terms, is a translation of research questions into something that you can test using research methodology, different type of research methodology. One thing here, yes.
And here your hypothesis will be like the variable that you are considering or looking at when linking it to your research question.
Exactly. Your hypothesis should close that gap.
Yes.
I'm seeing sometimes in the thesis, they collect the data, they're so excited. They are doing, for example, I also tested if there is any difference between man and woman, if there is any difference between among the education, if there is any difference. If you test something, you should put it in the hypothesis and you should put the why you expect a difference between men and women. Without putting this expectation, without claiming this hypothesis, don't test it. This is not somewhere that you show your test knowledge. This is the test is you are testing an hypothesis. So if you don't claim, don't put any thesis. It's not increase the something, it's actually decreasing the value of the result. Because again, I see it in a lot of theses and everything. This is the research strategy.
Excuse me, yes, Professor.
Please.
Do I still have to put this research model in the conceptual framework?
Yes.
I'm going to put it in my methodology or in my later on in the other part where I'm concept. Yeah.
Based on the journals, I'm going to talk about a little bit how to choose the right journal for your publication. But usually what they do, I am putting in the conceptual model what I consider the result of my hypothesis as a big picture, because one model might be composed of different hypotheses, right? So to see what I'm working on, and in the result section, I can show what is the result after the analysis, because some of them might not be supported, right? I still don't know.
So I put in the conceptual framework.
Yes.
My research question, my hypothesis, and I will also include if it's going to be exploratory, let's say deductive approach in my research. I put that also there.
Yes. Do you see this? Do you see this? And then the methodology part. Now we are going to explain what are methodologies. One point, if your methodology has any flaw in it, it's done, end of story. Yes. End of story, because I'm going to talk about now sampling, I'm talking about measuring, I'm going to talk about data collection procedures and everything. If there is any mistake in any of them, it's end of story. Because you cannot claim what you're talking about. All is very good, very nicely designed, surprising, but sample, for example, done. Samples, let me start with the samples. Always, oh, I can go ask 100 students. I'm sorry. One small example. One time I give a group a project with PhD students. Again, similar topic. I just tried to teach them how to make the analysis. It's not a big deal. They said, so we are gonna ask the questions about how our boss, how if we trust our leader, is it gonna increase our job performance? Okay, good, do it. They came back. Just before they start their presentation, I asked, okay, first, to whom did you ask your question? What is your sample? They said, oh, we asked our students. Finish. You ask the students, there is no boss, there is no job, there is no performance. What are you talking about? I mean, you ask the question, you got the answers, but the people who answered is not even aware what they are talking about. So the whole story has gone to the history. So sampling is the first important point. You should provide who is your population, who is your target population, and who is your sample. How did you choose your sample? Why did you choose this method? Because there are lots of different methodologies. I'm not going to go into this, but there's probability sampling, non-probability sampling, purposive, stratified, a lot of different. So why are you choosing this one, not the other? Every sentence, every claim, please explain why. Every step, it's going to put you in very safe side. Especially in the methodology. Why are you choosing this method? Why are you choosing this example or sample? Okay. So you choose a sample, you prefer to go with them. Is this sample sufficient? And is this sample really represent the population? If I'm talking about a claim, if you are talking about something that I'm claiming that all Kuwaiti students, university students, something like that, and I'm gonna do a questionnaire in my classroom, do they really represent all Kuwait? Impossible. It's okay. It has some value. I can understand, but I cannot say that it's representing everything. So representativeness and sufficiency. What do I mean by saying sufficiency? Our sample should have the sufficient, let's say, if we ask specific questions, they should have sufficient knowledge and sufficient position to answer these questions. If I'm making a research about relationship, about the leader and employee, they should be in such a place that they should have an employee or they should have a supervisor so that they can answer me reliable, they can give me reliable answers. So this part is how you describe your sample. Let me give you one example that I had years ago again in one of the articles. That's why I put here non-response bias. You say, what does it mean? My article was about commitment of the employees. And as you probably now, just go back if you did the kind of research, probably the results almost always higher than the mean, around 3.54. And one of the reviewers asked me this question. First, he said, your sample is wrong. And second, your interpretation is wrong. And he added this. He said that because you are doing a question, you are doing a survey, right? You're asking questions. It's volunteer based, right? Everybody are free to answer. And his claim was, and he put it in the theory, of course, not just his thinking. He said, in theory, people who are already committed are usually answering because they're committed, they want to do something for their organization. So the people you reach are already committed, what you're talking about. So what about the ones who are not committed? Big question. Thank God there are some statistical techniques that prove that your case, even though you cannot reach everybody, there are some statistical techniques, at least with some errors and, let's say, confidence intervals, let's say, I can prove something statistically. So, but we should be careful about also these things. I mean, when we claim, when we choose our sample, you might be questioned even on this level. And then we have our sample, we decided it represents the population. How am I going to collect the data? Data collection process is another design, actually. Because there is different designs. There's cross-sectional designs that you ask all the questions at the same time in the same paper. There are time lag. You ask some factors before, and then you ask the consequences later on after some time. And there might be 3 time lag, 4 time lag based on your design. There might be longitudinal. The difference is you measure the same thing by time. So these designs, of course, it's based on hypothesis. What do you want to prove? So, but again, when you choose one of them, you should answer the question why I choose it. For example, when you choose cross-sectional design, it means that, again, leadership turnover. Let's say. I'm giving the same example, but to be consistent. If I'm trying to claim leadership decrease the turnover intention, it's a causality, right? I'm saying A causes B. And when I use cross-sectioning, it means that if I ask leadership and the turnover at the same time to the same people, they say that, how do you claim A increase B? What if they don't have turnover intention and that's why they see their leaders good leaders? What if it causes in the opposite direction? Because I didn't measure in different time frames. So these are the things that really you should be careful when you design. So if you claim relationship, go with the cross-section. If you claim causality, if you have to use cross-section, then you should definitely prove causality through theory and the background. If you cannot do it by measurement and by data process, because it's a hard process, as we all know. Collecting data. This is our, let's say, most difficult part when compared to the engineering, unfortunately, because social science, when it comes to collect data from people, it's always on. It's always on.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Whether I'm doing quantitative or qualitative, it will still be the same, let's say, in terms of variant for collection of data. Don't you agree?
If you, again, even though if it's qualitative, if you claim some causality, you should consider this timeline. But qualitative analysis usually is used for, this in-depth interviews, focus group research, case studies. Usually we don't use. These are mostly quantitative.
That's why I'm asking.
Exactly. Because qualitative, again, grounded theory case study mostly used for exploratory something rather than claiming an hypothesis. That's why, yes, you're right, actually. This is mostly for quantitative. In this data collection process, we should also explain in detail if there is a translation process behind it, how we approach people. Did we send envelopes? Did we go to them face-to-face interviews? Did we just leave the papers and go back? Did we do online something? All of them should be explained detailed with the reasons why we. And every methodology, as you can imagine, has their pros and cons, of course, very naturally. So when you use online research, you should also put a couple of sentences explaining how you decrease the downside of online questionnaire. For example, how you are sure that the respondents have the same quality or expected the quality and something like this. Measurement scales. Unfortunately, the most difficult part. I mean, again, the same example, but I don't have any scale saying your stress level, saying that your commitment level, showing your, I don't know, turnover intentions anyway. On the other hand, especially in social science, we are talking about things that is changing every day. Even if your stress is today 5 because of your HOD, your stress might be 1 tomorrow morning when you're on your vacation, right? So it's changing every day and it can't be measured by it. So here, what we should be careful about the choosing our scales, how we measure it. Most of the social science based on attitude-based surveys, right? Because I'm measuring.
I'm just wondering here, how do you guard against people answering how they want to be or you want to hear rather what they are and what they're going to do in reality?
Yes.
Like, for example, I know that Taco Bell did this huge research about calorie intake and exercise. Everybody said they were going to exercise, they're going to eat less calories. But what did they do? Nothing. And then the Taco Bell and Pepsi came up with this half the calorie menu, huge flop, lost billions. And they said, how did we, what is wrong now? What is wrong with the methodology? And they found out the people basically answered how they wanted to do rather what they were going to do.
This is a perfect example of what it's called systematic error, because systematic error leads to biases. If people understand what you want to hear, if people understand what you are trying to measure, it's very hard to get reliable answers. Let me give you another example. One of my students tried to make a research on mobbing. Okay? When they talk to people, everybody said, "Oh, my supervisor mobbing me, psychology, torturing me, and everything." And it's come from the paper. Everything was perfect. Nobody said anything on it because she was directly asking if your supervisor mobbing you, if they do this, and you're doing it in the workplace. Do you expect the correct answer? No. Of course not. So this is something that you should be careful when asking the questions, when framing the questions. So it's something hard. I agree. It's not easy thing.
Especially when it's exploratory kind of research.
There's another example there. When Trump went to got elected the first time, all the research were wrong, 100% wrong. There was only 3 people who got it right: Google, Twitter, and Facebook. That actually Trump was going to get elected because they did through the big data what people were actually talking about on the social media when all the survey were 100% wrong.
This is going to the sampling actually, because their sample is so big. If you don't choose your sample right, it might affect
Washington
the
Post,
answer.
they had thousands of samples, but they just answered wrongly.
That's another point, yes. I mean, that's why measuring is very critical. It's very critical. Systematic reviews, biases, you can cause a lot of different things that might really bury your research under the ground. One of the things I also would like to add here, sometimes we claim something, but we don't measure the same thing. Let me give you an example again. In one PhD thesis, they claim that digitalization in manufacturing sector increases efficiency. Perfect claim, right? Very good. I asked the question, how did you measure digitalization and the efficiency? They said, we asked the question, okay, what is the question and to whom? And it turned out they asked the supervisors, what do you think digitalization is? Do you think it says something good? Do you think they just ask their ideas and they think that I measure digitalization? You did not measure anything. You just ask their opinions. It's just thinking. They just attitudes. They just perception. So be careful. Sorry.
Not actual outputs. In this example, they have to measure outputs.
So efficiency again the same thing. They ask the employees, do you think that you are efficient? But this is perception. This is not actual. So you should measure what you really claim. It's really important. And then every scale that you choose should be proven, reliable, and valid. This is 2 different things. One, validity means that do I really measure what I'm trying to measure? For example, it's a crazy example, but if you want to measure the length of the people, but if you use something that measures weight, scale, it's not valid. And the reliable, is it really consistent? Do you really get consistent results? So these 2 should be shown. If you choose a survey, so then, in parentheses, I would not advise you. I strongly not recommend you to develop your own scale when you do a research. This is gonna put you at a very weak point. Because it's very hard to prove that you are measuring everything for it. So I recommend you to use scales which is already proven reliable and already proven valid in the literature.
Don't do like Einstein. Einstein was always challenging theories. He was always trying to prove that he was right. And everyone hated him for it. Don't, unless you are really happy.
You are Einstein.
Really?
But Einstein, I mean, so if you are not Einstein, I will not recommend.
That's what I'm saying. Not everyone's going to be like that.
So this is maybe, for example, one of our very recent research. Finally, it was published in a very good journal. The first critique that we got, we were using this multi-level analysis and everything. They said that you are claiming something on the team level, but you measure individuals and you just get the average. Taking the average of the people doesn't exactly mean something on the team level. So either you should measure team or you should change your analysis. And we did almost a lot of things, not from scratch, but we tried to prove ourselves. So at the end, after the 4th revision and almost 1.5 year of process, we achieved to publish it. So this is really should be careful. Level of the measurement, what you mean, the meaning of the claim, factors, variables, everything should be very, very clear. And then these are the examples of quantitative analysis I'm talking about. We should put some preliminary. I am not still on the hypothesis testing. I am still trying to prove that my data is strong enough to go further. This is the first point, because I'm trying to do data cleansing, missing data procedures, control variables, factor analysis, reliabilities, everything that we should show first before going further. Okay. Of course, these also depends on the level of the journal. Not all journals asking the same level. I have that. But if you want to go strong, if you want to avoid all the criticism and everything before, even before submission, I recommend you put all these things in advance. There are some things that you might neglect, but they might put in front of you. For example, this is one of the things that I put.
Common method variance is nowadays a hot topic.
Yes, common method.
Top generals require common method variance.
Why? As my dear friend Fadin put perfectly, because all factors should be independent. So how am I going to show it? Because you are asking everything in the same paper to the same person. They say, okay, show me then it's not there. So it's one of the things that really a hard part. One of the things I learned, for example, if this one, measurement invariance, I learned from the hard way. We did a comparative research from 3 different nations, okay? From Taiwan, Turkey, and US. They said, good, perfect. Very good data collection. Congratulations. However, you know, there's sandwich method in communication. They say good things first, and then put everything in the middle, and at the end, bravo. And you are like hyper-size. You know, you don't understand what is going on. Is it good or bad? So this is what they told me. Perfect, very good. Congratulate you. You go all the nations collect. But, however, how do you say that all different nations perceive the questions in the same way? How can you prove that the factors come out in the same structure? If you don't prove it, it means that you are comparing apples to the oranges. This is what I learned from the hard way again. And then we went back to prove really in each sample, we did different factor analysis, applied a method that they call measurement invariance something, proved first. I still did not go to hypothesis. I'm still trying to prove that my data is good. This part, I mean, takes a lot of time, open to the errors very easily. So you should be careful going. Then we come to the hypothesis analysis. There are mainly, for quantitative research, there are mainly 3 types of hypotheses. Either we are trying to understand if there's a difference between different groups or different, let's say, samples. Then we apply difference analysis like t-test, ANOVA. If there's a relationship without causality, mainly correlation analysis. And if we claim some causality, we go further with regression analysis. And of course, if you are trying to predict something, of course, different versions of regression. And when it comes to regression, it's also the basics of the, this artificial intelligence, machine language, and everything. There are lots of different types of regressions. I mean, the moderated, mediated regressions, logistic regressions, polynomial, multi-level, a lot of different. So, but every one of them, so you need to be sure that how am I going to choose this? Which test is right. So what I'm telling to my students in my classes, we have to admit, when you enter YouTube, right, when you write t-test, you're gonna get 2,000 videos in less than 2 seconds, right? Okay. Everybody knows, explain, understand. But the question here is not how to do the t-test, is do I really t-test? Do I really need that one? Or is it the correct test for me? This is what Google cannot answer you, at least for the moment. Well, it depends on your hypothesis, it depends on your data, it depends on your sample, it depends on your purpose. So considering every one of them, you're going to choose the right test to prove your claim, to support or not support. So again, using this in a right way is very critical. Analysis should not have any flaw. The others, you can revise. Okay? For example, contributions, let me rephrase it. Conclusions, let me rephrase it. But if there's a mistake here, either you have to go back, or sometimes they even ask you to do another research to prove your point. That also happened 2 times to me. They literally said that if you want to publish here, you have to do use another sample, do another research, and confirm your first results. Then they're going to be published. They can even go further this one. Then it's going to be your course. Right? Now we're coming to the final part. So I would like to emphasize the difference of these 4 points. First, statistical finding. Okay, significance is over 0.5. It's significant. Okay, what does it mean? Significant, okay, what? So then I have to interpret that one. It is significant so that leadership really decreased turnover in my sample. So first, we should give the statistical results, or findings, and then we have to interpret. And then we have to discuss, okay, now I found these. What is the difference or what is the similarity to the literature, to the previous research? And then I will come to the conclusion and connect everything from here to my first question. So, because I claimed at the beginning, I said that I'm going to do this. Did I achieve it? Or even if I could not achieve it, so what is the problem? What was the problem? What were my constraints? Based on my constraints, what would be my future recommendation? I said that, for example, I couldn't reach 1,000 people, and I just found people from IT sector. It might be beneficial to do it in the health sector also to see if there is any difference. I did it in Kuwait, in Turkey. It might be a better idea to do it in an Asian culture or US or whatever. And I just had, I might have a kind of multi-collinearity issue. I tried to prove it, but it might be better to do it in a multi-level research using longitudinal design. So these are going to be your recommendations to get rid of these constraints for the future steps. So this is the big picture. A couple of key points in general. First, we need to choose our journal strategically. And I specifically put this, it's a very unfortunately recent trend, they call it predatory journals, which asks money for everything. No. Actually, you are buying the publication. So you can publish, okay, it's your choice. Nobody can interfere your idea, your aim. But publishing in this type of journals is going to decrease your reputation as an author. Indexing and quartile are 2 different things. So I recommend you first check the indexing of the journals. Okay. If the journals are being indexed in the high-level databases, like Web of Science, like Scopus. And then check the quartiles, because there are some predatory journals saying that Because quartiles is being calculated by the number of citations, how many of your articles are cited. And they created a kind of environment, they're citing each other. Believe me. They're citing each other and it increased their citations. For example, we are 20 people in this room. We promise each other, when you do the research, you cite all of us. When I do tomorrow morning, we all have 20 citations. This is how they create it, unfortunately. And that's why quartile calculations sometimes might be misleading.
You mean Q1 and Q2 and Q3?
Yes.
Yeah.
So first go to indexing, and then if they're indexed, and then check the quartile.
Index in terms of like Scopus or
Like Web of Science, SSCI,
Science,
SCI, and Scopus, these.
Do we have a list of preferred journals?
Me, personally, or
No, AU.
AU, unfortunately, as far as I know, in social sciences, they don't have.
We have this ABS list that was mentioned in the research strategy. So if you take the research strategy,
The Australian one as well?
yeah, the Australian as well, correct.
But it's
There are two lists.
a recommended thing as far as it's not a policy. It's not something that you have to.
It was mentioned in the research strategy of
Yes.
College of Business.
I find that list not very comprehensive because it's basically only business. It's not technique in it or something that for me, for like electric cars, it's not really there in the business. And I find it very limiting, also very outdated quite often.
We might look at it. I mean, this is maybe one of the outputs of this session, maybe,
And
and
very practice oriented.
we can go over it and just don't ever say again the same things, maybe, but just a summary of what I'm talking.
yeah.
This study was not conducted before. Nobody did it before. It's a huge claim. You might be in offside at the same second. I mean, they're gonna put you something in front of you while you're saying this. So just be so careful.
You can limit this by saying to our knowledge.
That's a good
If you
technique.
want to
Yes,
feel superior.
At
so
least-
you are superior,
at
you
least-
mention to our knowledge.
because sometimes you really want to say that, right?
Just
I mean,
mediate.
want to say that to strengthen, perfect idea, just to put to my knowledge, to our knowledge, to
Our
the
research.
best of our,
Yeah, our
Research,
research
something like that.
did not find any.
say, leave them some room. Leave them some room. What if questions? Answer what if questions. When you claim something at the end, when you are doing your conclusion, it's important. There might be some other interpretation, some other conclusion. So please consider to put this, because you're going to have a lot of questions on this one. What if this is the opposite direction? What if this is something? What if this is something? So it's a very good idea to put it. It's not very critical. Don't forget the surprise factor again. I would like to mention that once more. I'm going to show you, if we have time, an example review report. 3 reports I wrote. 1 was for my own article. 2 are other journals that I considered as a reviewer. I contributed as a reviewer. Almost everywhere. It didn't surprise. The result didn't surprise. So, I mean, because we are doing always the usual thing. So it's not attracting a lot. It's hard to find very innovative, creative something, right? Okay, I can also understand it. But the point is just looking at maybe even the same thing from a different point. So my advice to you, if you are doing research on social science, go to the theories of economy, go to the theories of learning, go to theories. Try to like interdisciplinary connection between other theories of the other sciences, behavioral science. The same thing for engineering. Sometimes you would not consider these things, but you might use it as an explanation and to put them as a surprise factor. Yes, this is something proven, but nobody thought the reason might be this. Everybody was thinking the reason is the student, but actually the reason is the professor. Why don't we think it like this? We know the students are failing, but this is a different point of view. Just putting in a different way, even through, again, surprise factor. And that also brings me to the same point. Hypotheses that are not supported should not frighten you. Okay? It should be used in a very nice fashion. To my experience, it's even more valuable. If your hypotheses are not supported, as long as you explain the reasoning behind it, it's going to be more valuable, and it might even create a surprise factor. And putting the theory.
I would like to build a team. For example, me and Faithon wrote a paper together. Faithon is very good in statistics and methodology. I basically am more into so what kind of thing and make it interesting. So we actually did a very nice paper together about basically a chemical cluster, synergy of a chemical cluster. And
this is the best way actually. When you go through this really high quality journals, it's very, very rare to see one author article, really. At least 3, 4, 5. Their team, as you just said, everybody has their own strength, and when you combine them, you can really do a very good research. Somebody, I mean, I have a colleague. She's living in US and she's a professor. She's a Turkish, but I mean, I was amazed with her publications one time, and at the end I had the chance to meet her. But when I was doing after my PhD and everything, I was looking at her research, the same article, same variables is in my computer. I'm being rejected continuously. She's publishing on the top. I said, how is she doing this? I mean, and I really, one day I downloaded her 15 articles, read them word by word. And I told them 10 years later, she was laughing. And I realized she was selling the same thing so nicely. I mean, when you read her article, you might think, okay, she went to Jupiter and came back, okay? Perfect. You just stand up and start. Yeah. When I do that, well, it's not surprising, reject. So it's how you put it, really so important. And that's the team, that's the first thing. Because when you, as yourself, you might not think everything.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I just got rejected on Field 1 journal. And I got rejected as everything was perfect, but the article was boring. and that was basically...
You need a perfect marketing people.
I actually left it to my partner, and I did the response. I could have actually made it. So now I'm reading it, rewriting it to make it interesting.
You see, it's how you frame, exactly. This is my last slide, by the way, to just as a final sentence. I mean, again, methodology should not have any flaw. My humble recommendation, I share with my friends and brothers. Publication is the currency in academia, and your publication list is your bank account. I mean, humbly, I had the chance to work in 6 different countries. Whenever I applied, they did not ask me how many hours I taught. They asked me, show your publication. Where did you publish? What is the quality of your research? This is this. I mean, if you really want to increase your reputation, want to increase your visibility in academia, this is the way. This is the way. And thank you so much. I hope, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. I hope, please.
Professor Alper, thank you very much for the comprehensive and well-structured presentation. I really enjoyed it. And, you know, it's nice to hear those things. I'm familiar with all those things, but it's very nice when somebody explains it again for you. You mentioned about the non-response error. In statistical analysis, we have many different types of errors: measurement error, sampling error, sampling frame error. Just one addition to what you said, a very good technique to tackle the non-response error. First of all, what is non-response error? It means that there might be the probability that those who did not answer have a statistically different opinion from those who answered.
Exactly.
So this creates the bias. So what you can do based on theory is you can see who is not answering, identify the demographic profile, and try to replace them with similar cases, similar participants. And with this is a very good technique to tackle the no-response error. Just an addition because.
Thank you. Another addition for you, what you said, if you cannot reach the demographics of those people, what they advise, just divide your own sample into two, the ones who responded right away and the ones who responded very late. So they're about to not respond or respond. So you can even compare these two if to just an indication. Of course, you cannot prove, but just as an indication that there is no bias at least that can threaten your results. This is the point actually. Of course, we have bias, we have errors, but to prove that the bias or error that we have is not threatening the validity of our results and conclusions. This is the point actually. Please.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about sampling size.
Yes.
So there is a formula that we can use to figure out how many people we need to, I've seen this.
Yes, actually there's a formula. There's two different formulas. One is based on if you know the number of people in the population. The one is based on if you don't know.
Okay.
And actually the result gives you some numbers. And you can even, when you go through internet, you can even find some tables showing that if the population is 10,000, the sufficient number is this. This number is actually showing this. I don't know if you ever heard Pareto analysis, but they say that if you reach, let's say, I'm just giving you as an example, okay? You say that the population is 20,000 and the formula gives you 1,000. It means that if you reach 1,000, okay, you are reaching almost explaining almost 75–80% of the whole population. You are very close. So the rest 19,000 is not going to give you more. So it's not worth to go to rest 19,000 because it's just going to put 10% on top of it.
So you are increasing a lot the cost of the survey by contacting more, while you are getting much less.
Exactly. It's actually a translation of cost benefit. But if you reach this number, it's going to make your results at least valid and reliable. You can use them to generalize.
So you recommend using it?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless we are thinking of a census, and this is something different.
Of course. Census is reaching everybody.
No,
My professor,
no sampling.
this is my answer, but my professor answered to the same question because we were asking as a PhD student all the time. He was always giving the same answer. As much as you can. So this was his answer. Please.
Only if it's really random, truly random.
Yeah.
It works. Without randomness, it's nothing.
If you are using, let's say, probability-based sampling techniques, because there are different sampling techniques.
Simple
Okay?
random.
Simple random. In simple random, one of the key points is, this is also something that's being used sometimes, a different interpretation. If you say that, for example, your population is all university students in Kuwait, okay? And you're telling me that I choose a simple random method and I choose randomly from this university. It's not random. Because if you say that simple random, it means that in theory, every student in Kuwait has the same chance to be in your sample. Do you have this chance? No. So then we define population and we define target population, saying that, okay, my population is whole Kuwait, but based on my resource, based on my time, I don't have money, I don't have this and this, my target population is Avustralian University. And then from Avustralian University, I can choose random. Then it means.
Unless you can get all the lists with your own students from all universities,
Which
then you will
is
have a random
Of
sample.
course.
It's a matter of how you approach.
Yeah.
If you can get all the students enrolled in lists from all universities, then you have a very good representation of the whole population into a list.
If you
sampling
really
frame.
choose random.
Yes.
So from there you can get a random sample.
Yeah.
From there you can collect, yeah.
From there you can
My teacher in statistics told me you should never run a statistical test with less than 30 answers. Because
Less than 30 answer is actually a very basic thing that's said in some books, and it's based on less than 30, you could never achieve even similar to the normal distribution.
Yeah.
So this is so every test you are gonna do is not gonna be valid. So this,
Not
basically
represented.
the lower limit.
this doesn't, because when you say, I'm always avoiding myself to say something like this. Because when I say this, then the students go to 31 and then finish. Because they said you said 30, so I reached 31. That's enough. That's why I'm always hesitating to say these things so that not to limit people. I mean, that's why as much as we can reach.
Professor Alper,
Yes, please.
first of all, let me thank you very much for the presentation, which was very beneficial to us all. And I think there will be many questions with colleagues, but due to time limitation, as people have classes now, but I think everyone should know that the remaining sessions will be a breakdown of what you went through today. So basically, there'll be detailed sessions on each one of the aspects. So that will open the door for colleagues to go into more details, suggestions, questions, and so on. So I would really like to thank you for your valuable input in today's session, and thank everyone who's contributed and attended.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor Alper, if I may add one more thing, please, before we finish. Thank you so much for a wonderful lecture today. And I would like to ask you, when you get a chance during the day, please send me your PPT, because we are going to send a link to this recording as well as the PPT to all faculty members simply for their future reference. And thank you, Nada.
I will send it right away after the presentation. Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for excellent.
Thank you, my colleagues, for your questions, for your attendance, and for not letting me alone here. And I kindly ask you to put your name and signature in the attendance list, please. Thank you so much. And thank you, my colleagues who attended online. I hope I explained your questions and I made you excited a little bit about research. Thank you so much. And if you have any further questions, I'm going to be more than happy to answer. Thank you.
It was a true pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you.